This is RTP. This is RTP 180.
Forward for you. Sorry, that's still on.
You're fine. I hate
There
that photo.
you
She
are.
works so well. Yeah. Her photo was better, so it worked out well. Hi, welcome. As she said, my name is Brandon Cordrey. I am an artist first. I make two-dimensional work, mostly in collage, and also installation-based work about two very different topics. One about how we have a wealth of media and writing and news in the United States, but it doesn't actually lead to a more educated and better voting electorate. And secondly, about the queer experience based on ethnographic research that my husband actually does. And I'm also the director of VAE Raleigh. We are a 39-year-old organization in downtown Raleigh. We think of ourselves as a community cultural arts organization, meaning that we use art to gather our community and have discussions, oftentimes about inequities in the art world, but also beyond that. And I'm here to talk about not my art or VAE, but civic art. And your first question is probably, what is civic art? And that's probably good, because otherwise this would be really boring for you. I had a joke here about how you asking that question allowed me to spend my husband's corporate money to buy the blazer I was wearing, but it's really hot in here. So if you want to look at it, it's on my chair. So that's a really good question to ask, and I think it's best to kind of break it down, start with civic. A lot of people, when they think of the word civic and what that means, they think of civic duty. So the things that you do as a citizen, and I think that is flawed for this discussion. Because we think of being a citizen as being a citizen of a country, a state, a county, a city, it's very tied to municipalities, and citizenship has been a long-standing tool to basically create an us and an other, and I don't think that that's a good place to start when you're talking about inclusive artwork. This is the second thought a lot of people have. That is also incorrect. I am not here to talk to you about art on Honda Civics. So the definition of civic I use for mine comes from civic engagement, the idea that you're working with your community to create a positive change. Sometimes that also means that someone is working alone, but I find it's very hard to work alone without talking to other people and still have a worldly view and cause positive change. The next part, civic art is art. So what is art? It's tonight's topic, so I hope that you have a slight connection to it, and that I don't have to go all the way back in history. Also, this is the mug that I drink out of every day at work when I'm not drinking out of a mug that is made by an artist, because you should support local artists. This has a photograph by Ai Weiwei on it with a statement that he's obviously using a little bit of hyperbole as he flips off Tiananmen Square, but he's more right than he is wrong in this. Everything is art and everything is politics. Everything around you can be art, conversation can be art, and everything ends up being political. It's just the world we live in. So, what is civic art? Most commonly, when people think, what is civic art, they immediately go, public art. It's public art, right? And you're not 100% wrong, but you're wrong. So people think civic art sounds like something that's funded by citizens. So it's very tied to funding, and they think of public art as being funded by the public through tax dollars, and that's what makes public art, but that's incorrect. Public art is art that happens in the public space. It is available to everyone. It is not sort of cornered off in a gallery or museum somewhere. It's in the public realm. It has nothing to do with the funding source. And this has nothing to do with civic art, but it is just an inaccurate assumption that people make, and it annoys me. So I like to use any opportunity to correct people. People in the public art realm are just, they're cheering me on right now. Public art can be civic art, but it is not civic art by default as it's defined, at least by our local community. So I've had a lot of conversations. I want to credit Monet Marshall. She's the one who led our organization into this realm of questioning what public art is, or what civic art is. See, I just did it. So we have found several colleges that are changing from calling something liberal art to calling it civic art. If you ask an architect, they will tell you that civic art is all of the design of roads, buildings, sidewalks that make up a city. We don't like any of those definitions, but I thought I'd give them to you just to be inclusive. Our local community has come to the idea that civic art has a purpose, and that it requires the viewer to be engaged in the artwork. It requires you to bring your full self and your context to it in order for the art to actually be activated. And that it does take a wider view of the world and tries to create positive change. I am not here to advocate that every piece of art should be civic art. I'm just here to talk about the interesting thing that is a classification of art that is civic. So in that idea of civic art and thinking about examples of civic art, which I should have given you some because we've just discussed how you're wondering what civic art is. I wasn't planning to give this one, but it happened yesterday and it consumed my entire day, and I hope it consumed at least some of your day because then we can be friends. But Beyonce dropped Homecoming, the Netflix movie, and a full album yesterday, and I was thinking about whether or not it was civic art. Obviously, you had to go to Coachella. I didn't go to Coachella. You know, people can't afford to go to Coachella. Then it's on Netflix. You have to be a subscriber of Netflix. This is all very tangential. But it comes out of the experience that she wanted of going to an HBCU, which she did not get to do. And I thought that was really interesting that she pulled from that culture and highlighted it because while today HBUs are a thing that should be celebrated, like all black spaces, they started because while we had black colleges, the default was a white college that black students could not come from. So the purpose of pulling that piece of art together was to honor something that had in the past been ugly, and still today we can find inequities in education, so it's still not completely a beautiful thing, but her work that she made out of it was. No, I gave it away. Okay, so why art? Why does art need to challenge racism, sexism, ableism, all the isms? Why does it need to be in this realm? Does it belong in an arena that's challenging sort of the civic norms that we've built our country on, a lot of them falsely? I've had a lot of people come up to me and be like, art is exempt. Art is just to make the world beautiful. Art shouldn't have to participate in this realm. One, look outside. The world is beautiful. We don't need art for that very purpose. Two, it really offends me that you would think that something I'd center my entire life around is just about making the world beautiful. That is very boring, and it wouldn't have interested me this long if that were true. And third, I think that art is not innocent. It is not by default inclusive. The structures we've built around our art world are they're exclusionary. They've locked a lot of people out for a long time. You get high enough in the art world and it's very white, it's very male, and it's very wealthy. So my definition of why art gets to be in this arena is that art is a seductive ninja. And by that I mean that art lures you in. It asks you to be involved. People are drawn to art. Think about the way that the public reacted when Notre Dame burned. It's not because they're Catholic, it's because there's a lot of great art in Notre Dame. It's thought of as this art symbol. It draws you in, it lowers your guards, and all of a sudden you're having conversations that you'd avoid at Thanksgiving. And you, I know, it was gonna be shorter, but it happened. So I think that it's a seductive ninja. My last bit is that you should support civic art. Obviously, civic art is meant to have a purpose, and for that it is often seen as activist. It's often seen as too black, too disabled, too queer, too inclusive, too focused on low income, and those are not political issues. Equality is not a political issue. Trying to take someone's equality away from them is a political issue. This work is often not for sale. It's not on canvas. It is performance art. It can be two-dimensional art. It can be theater, who you're going to hear from later. But often it's outside the realm of grants, corporate sponsorship, or individual contributions. So find an artist or an art organization or project that challenges you to be a better person, something that you can feel a positive change from, and support those artists. And that was it. Going back to my slide.
Thank you.